You are listening to the Hiking Radio Network, where we talk the walk with shows by hikers, about hikers, for everybody.
Mighty Blue on the Appalachian Trail, the ultimate midlife crisis. Join Steve and his guests every week as he staggers from Georgia to Maine.
Hey guys, so good to be back with you all again. This is Mighty Blue on the Appalachian Trail, and I'm Mighty Blue, or Steve Adams. We've had some challenging weather conditions this week, with smoke spreading across from Canadian wildfires, though I must confess, I don't feel that they were as bad as they seem to have been reported, or certainly where I was. I know I've seen some pictures of how bad they've been in other parts of New York and New Jersey and further south, but I think we seem to have missed a lot of it. But this week there's also been notable because of the lack of resupply and hostel options, though I've managed to work out food for each of those days, but just about. Heat continues to be a bit of a problem though, with late 80s, perhaps the odd early 90s weather, though, through some of these days, and I end up in a pool of sweat at the end of every single day. My clothes, when I take them off at night, are just drenched. Tough to get them dry overnight, so that's the way it goes. Nevertheless, I'm still going, and I will be getting into Connecticut by Tuesday, so another state will be under my belt. But before we hear what happened these past few days, let's hear from our sponsor, Polar Steps. If you're heading out on a long hike this year, which I am, I've got something I think you're going to love. It's called Polar Steps. It's a travel tracking app that's going to become a favourite with hikers. You set your start date, let it run quietly in the background, and it maps your entire journey automatically, all on your own beautiful spinning 3D globe. And don't worry, the tracking feature uses about 4% of your battery on a single charge, so it's not going to kill your phone when you're out there. You can add photos and short journal entries as you go, so your map shows you where you were and your words remind you of what that day actually felt like. There's a light social layer too. Family and friends can follow along, or you can keep it completely private. As every hiker says, hike your own hike. And when you're done, you can relive the whole thing in the app, or turn it into a stunning coffee table book with your route, stats, photos and stories. And did I tell you that it's entirely free to download and use? The only time you'll be paying anything is if you decide to turn your trip into a book. That's Polar Steps. Track it now, treasure it forever. Day 94, which was Wednesday, from Fingerboard Shelter, mile 1393.1, to Palisades Interstate Parkway, mile 1402.4, a small 9.3 mile day. I had a lousy night on my rock. I don't know if you remember, I said I'd set up on a rock because there were no real camping spots there. And I've got a freestanding tent. So that enabled me to put it up on the rock. Now, normally I would secure it by placing a couple of other rocks on the four corners of the tent, but it was very calm when I went to sleep. And the wind got up in the night and moved my tent. It made me jump out my skin. I thought as I woke that there was a bear shoving it around. It's funny actually, when you're in the woods and you hear noises, I think you make more of them than there actually is. I'm now used to it, so I don't worry about it too much, but this one really did make me jump. I remember one night in my 2014 hike, I think funnily enough, just before Bear Mountain, I just pulled off the trail because I didn't want to go up Bear Mountain that night. I wanted to do it first thing the next morning. So I just pulled off the trail and set my tent up. I was perfectly happy doing that. And then I heard some coyotes, about a mile ago, about half a mile or a mile away, I guess. About 15 minutes later, they were right outside my tent. They were circling the tent, making noises. But really, you get that false sense of security when you're in a tent that no one can get you. So I didn't worry about it too much, but it did make me jump when I heard it and felt that the tent was just moving around. Now, there were two priorities on this day. Number one was getting water, because I'd drunk so much the previous day and there was none at this shelter. I had to fill up my catadine at a stream a little way back, so I did have a limited supply. But number two was watching England lose in the World Cup semi-final, although at the time the priority was to watch England win in the World Cup semi-final. But most importantly, I wanted to be there while they either won or lost. The water situation was immediately worsened when Tenacious, a lady I'd met in the last week or so, had only half a litre of water for the day, so Breadcrumbs and I both shared some of our water with her. I headed out after breakfast. Now, of course, I'd saved enough water for that, and I immediately felt exhausted again. Turns out there is smoke coming from Canadian fires causing unsafe air, and this was really the first time it was starting to affect me. But we're in kind of the wild, up mountains, although they're not very high. I never found it was too bad. I was more worried about the water, and I was hopeful because according to the Far Out app, there was a flowing stream within the first mile, and that proved to be reliable. It came after just 0.6 of a mile, and I tell you, I drank deeply. I set up my Catadine on the bridge and sat down on the bridge and just drank as much as I possibly could and just let it just fill me up. I took my time, then refilled my bottles again and headed on. Once I'd had water, and I actually added some electrolytes to what I did have left, which was about half a litre. And once I'd added those electrolytes, I felt so much better and I coped so much better with the climbs. There's no question about it. The electrolytes gives you such a boost. I'm using currently this stuff called Liquid IV, and it really feels like you've got an IV, and it helps a lot. So I must buy a bit more of that because I'm starting to run out. But to be fair, also, the profile was less difficult than the previous day, so obviously I felt better because I coped better with the climbing. I set my sights on Palisade Parkway as a likely escape route to make the World Cup game. We used to have to run across the parkway, but the trail has now been rerouted to take in the bridge over the parkway. And it was dangerous, no question about it. And I'm not being flip about this at all. And I don't know if somebody was killed or hit by a car crossing the parkway. It's surprising how you're unaccustomed to the speed of the cars. So you start running across thinking you're going to make it, and you make it by an inch or something like that. So I'm glad they put that bridge across, or I'm glad they've rerouted it to take in that bridge. And to be honest with you, the reroute was sweet. Generally slightly downhill and pretty much free of rocks. So it was a nice little walk in the park, and I really enjoyed that. I got to the exit of the Appalachian Trail onto the road and set up my chair, of course, to organise everything. I took off my pack, got my chair out, set up because I had nowhere to sleep that night. I had to work out how to get there, but I was pretty confident in my organising skills that I should be able to work it out. I then booked a room at the Bear Mountain Inn, even though I was still about 6 miles short of that. Frankly, it's much more expensive in the north. There were no hostels around I could find anyway. And so I went for, just as a bit of a tip, I went to booking.com to book, and within booking.com, there's other aggregators who let you book for cheaper and cheaper. So I got the cheapest one I could find, and I found this out later. They'd they sort of changed the booking and to go to the lodge or the stone, I think they're stone cabins or something like that, about a mile away from the inn, which is ridiculous. And I didn't realise that. I thought I booked in the inn, but I was at these lodges. Anyway, once I got the booking, so I was confident I had somewhere to go, and I thought, as I say, I was in the inn. I got in touch with Uber, or on the app, and after a few false starts, a guy came to pick me up. When I got to the lodge, there was no check-in. Somebody told me that check-in was at the inn itself. Obviously, I didn't have a car, and I certainly didn't fancy walking another mile. So I asked the inn if they would send me somebody to pick me up. A guy then came out of the lodge and took me back to the inn, so that was helpful. I don't know. I shouldn't be pissed off with it, but I was. I paid $140 to get into this room, and I say I was hoping to get into my room a little bit early, in time to shower before the game, but they were sticklers for the rules, and they told me that my room would be ready, as it said in my booking, at 3 p.m. And 3 p.m. was kickoff time. They did generously give me a couple of coffee vouchers to spend in the cafe. So I had a cup of coffee and charged my phone while I waited. Eventually, I went to the front desk and kind of moaned a bit. And I asked them to drop me over at the lodge at about 2:45 p.m. Just so I was ready to get in the room. And I got in just before the kickoff. I kind of wish I missed it now. England lost, as you probably know. So that was that. I was still a bit stuck for resupply, so I ordered a pizza delivery and I was going to eat it cold for breakfast the next morning. You know, the joys of living on the trail. And frankly, I was happy with the pizza. That was very nice. There are very few resupply options in New York that I've found so far, apart from obviously the delis. But we hadn't actually hit the delis yet. So I was struggling to find places I could resupply. And when I looked up in Far Out, the place to do it was Fort Montgomery. And that was another shuttle drive or an Uber drive later. So it was starting to rack up the cost of this trip so far, certainly in the north. But that was the end of that day. Day 95, which was last Thursday. Palisades Interstate Parkway, mile 1402.4 to the Graymoor Spiritual Life Centre, mile 1416.0, a 13.6 mile day. And in my mind, this was one of those days I really wanted to enjoy getting to the Graymoor because I knew there was a deli just before it, and I loved staying on the ball field. And you know, there were plenty of people each of the last two times I've been there, you know, camping out, and it was pretty great communal spirit there. I loved it. But with the air quality quite badly deteriorating, I did decide to set myself up for a modest 38 miles over 3 days. I'd always intended to take the Sunday off because it was the last round of the British Open Golf Championship, the Belgian Formula One Grand Prix, as well as the World Cup soccer final, which unfortunately England will not be in. And with that 38 miles, it would just about not quite reach my target of 80 miles for the week. So I was happy that I was making that compromise. I was helping myself in terms of the quality of the air. So I was okay with that. Breakfast was available at the Bear Mountain Inn, of course, not where I was, but I had no means of getting there other than walking. And those extra miles all feel somewhat unnecessary. But I eventually bit the bullet and I walked about a half a mile to the inn because there was a bit of a shortcut you could find down by the lake, where I had demolished eggs, bacon, sausage, hash browns, toast, and so on. I almost think they're kind of missing a trick there. You know, the breakfast could have been better, a lot better, in fact. It didn't need to be on styrofoam plates either, and plastic knives and forks, and just unnecessary, really. You know, with making a little effort, that place could be really a cracking place for people to visit, and they got plenty of visitors there. And I know we're only smelly old hikers, and I know we're pretty feral as it is, but it would be nice to have had a decent breakfast. And I'm complaining, and I'm sounding entitled. I don't mean to be, but I just don't think it really does the place doesn't do what it could do. And at the checkout counter, a guy ordered me a taxi, which took me to Fort Montgomery for resupply, or basic resupply, and then back to where I was dropped off the day before. But unfortunately, she would not pay attention to me as to where we were meant to be getting off. And I was looking for, I can't remember the name of it, but it ended with road or something, but she went to something that ended with trail. I said I needed to get back up the trail at this address. She wasn't listening. I suddenly said, turn left there, turn left. And she just carried on. And so I said, you're going wrong. No, this is the right way. I said, no, you're going wrong. She said, here are such and such trail. I said, no, it was such and such road. And it may not have been road, street, avenue, whatever it is. But yeah, she was just not listening at all. And eventually she did a bit of a U-turn, which was a bit dangerous, but we made it. But it was nice to get back to the woods once I'd crossed over the parkway. You know, she dropped me exactly where I set my chair up the day before, walked across the bridge, and I was back in the woods. But with the smoke, you know, from the wildfires, you know, it was very much in evidence. There was a kind of general orangey, grey funk about the woods. And I actually got up to the top of the mountain pretty quickly and felt good after I'd had a really, really good night's sleep. And that's one thing I would say about the lodge. The bed was extremely comfortable. At the top, there were these expansive views across the Bear Mountain, and I could see the icon at the top, and I knew I'd be up there in an hour or so. It looked a heck of a long way up there, I tell you. So I knew I'd be going there. And then there was a lake I couldn't identify. I must say, I was a little bit concerned about the air quality, though. I was breathing okay, and I could vaguely smell the smoke. It didn't seem that bad to me. From the top, I went down and crossed 2 roads before starting to trek up the mountain. I'd forgotten that there was a bit of an up to another road. Then the trail went along a 6 foot wide, maybe 8 foot wide paved road until it started climbing up those steps again. Naturally enough, particularly with my experience on this trail this year, I've forgotten just how family friendly Bear Mountain is to climb. There are steps to take you up the steeper parts, not even, particularly big steps, and glorious views along the way, including a few benches as well. It really is a beautiful way to spend an hour or two. And I've said that before, actually, coming up from Delaware Water Gap to Sunfish Pond. I think they make it reasonably easy for the local community to use these facilities, as it were, and these little hikes. And I think everybody should try it if they can. It's a lovely walk up there. I really enjoyed it. And at the top of Bear Mountain, I ran into a young couple, Bobo and Timberdoodle. Great names. And they agreed to interview with me. I'll play that after this. The climb down is a series of short steps to make it easier for everybody, though it does go on quite a bit. And my knees were getting a bit of a jarring. And the work that must have gone into putting this together and making it wide enough and accessible for everybody to use it, it's so remarkable that I've met trail maintainers on here. In fact, I met one about a week before who told me he'd worked on some of those steps on Bear Mountain. And he told me I think there were 1,200 steps on the way down. So the work that must have been done, it's just remarkable. And families were up there in abundance. So it was great to see people going out there of all ages and really enjoying a day out on a beautiful day as well. I then got to the park where I rounded part of the lake and went in again to the Bear Mountain Inn for a snack and some water. I bumped into young Roly-Poly, the son of Star, if you remember, Star the other day, or Whippoorwill. He's hiking with his dog, as well as a guy called Rocketeer. I want to tell you why Roly-Poly got his name. He said his hammer cup, and I don't know the full details of it, but it was on a bit of a slope. And in the night, I think he turned over and tore through his netting and went rolling down the hill. Must have woken him up with a bit of a start. That's funny. I left them while they were devouring food and continued around the lake before turning right and then left into the zoo, whereas there were hardly any animals at all. I did see, I think, a porcupine, and I took a picture of it. I'm not even sure it was a porcupine. It just looked like this horrible little face staring out at me. But I also thought there was a tapir, which is one of those African kind of strange-looking antelope type things. Turned out it was a bloke bending down. So really, I saw virtually no animals in the zoo at all. But you just go straight through the zoo and you end up on the path across the Hudson River Bridge, which is the lowest point of the trail. The climb away from there, though, once you get over the bridge, is very steep. But by taking it slowly, I managed it pretty well from then on for the next few miles. There are gentle ups and gentle downs and a really pleasant walk through the woods. I eventually came to the Appalachian market, which is the first of the famous delis, and filled up with sliced sirloin and onion gravy and mashed potato. It was bloody marvellous. I also bought a beer in that market, and they gave it to me in a paper bag. Anyway, so I took it out of the paper bag and started drinking it in the shop or in the deli. And the guy came over and said, "You have to drink it in the paper bag." Really? That's some strange rules. Maybe it's a state thing, I don't know. Weird. But the food was great, and it was great to have a nice cold beer. And it was just another mile to go to the Graymore Spiritual Life Centre, but it soon started to fill up, and eventually there were about 6 or 7 tents set up there. And I strongly advise people to visit. It's only a little bit off trail, 0.3, 0.4, but it's very calm. You walk past there's a 9/11 memorial. There's the graveyard for the brothers or the friars or whatever they are. And then you come to the ball field where there's a pavilion, and you can see under there in bad weather with lots of picnic tables around. I set up a lot of my stuff on the picnic tables. There's power, there's a spigot, and best of all, is a shower, which was cold, but absolutely gorgeous. I went in there and it just washed the day off me. It was absolutely beautiful. And also there was a porta potty as opposed to a privy. And believe me, the difference is startling. So I enjoyed the porta potty that next morning. But the bugs were still out, so I settled down in my tent and watched a TV show on my chair. Very happy indeed. I'm sitting here. In fact, I'm not sitting here, they're sitting here. We're at the top of Bear Mountain, which is an incredibly family-friendly climb, I must say. Please introduce yourselves. Tell us your real names and trail names and where you're from.
My name's Emily.
Tricky. Try again with your name.
Sorry. My name's Emily. My trail name's Timberdoodle, and I'm from Pennsylvania.
My name's Josh. My trail name is Bobo. I'm also from Pennsylvania.
Right. Are you two a couple?
Yeah.
You came to the trail as a couple. How's the relationship? Still going all right?
Compared to the way through, we're doing good.
Yeah.
Is it testing? Is it testing on a relationship, do you think, this trip?
I think it's building, if that's the right word. I think if you're not in the
agree
right...
with her. There's a good time to agree with her.
No, I agree. I think because we've been together for like 11 years, we probably have shared a lot of close time together, and we're used to it. I can't imagine like the people who meet on trail and become a couple when they're out here.
Oh, yeah.
Like how that would work.
How funky that must be.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so intimate. Like, the stuff you're doing in your tent, like, and sharing that much space, being that sweaty and gross, it's like hard to imagine doing that.
Are you regular hiking partners? I mean, have you done many long distance hikes?
We've done some backpacking, like 7-night trips or 70-mile trips, but this is our first long through hike.
Right. You say you've been together a while, so you're probably in your early 30s?
Yeah.
Okay. How do you get away from life, both of you?
Well, both of our jobs we happen to be part-time as of last year.
Okay.
And so April last year, and then we decided we'd always wanted to do the hike, and it was kind of the perfect time to just step away from.
What are you going to do when you go back?
Great question.
That's a good question.
Great question.
Well, we have a few months where we're going to kind of travel, and then probably January of next year we'll
start thinking about work.
Start thinking about work.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Now, how's it gone so far? Have you enjoyed the hike?
Oh my gosh, I've loved it. I mean, I think that's one thing that I really expected. There would be times where I'd just be like miserable and want to quit, and I just haven't felt that at all yet. I mean, I haven't even thought about quitting ever. Like, I just have loved it so far. There's been times where I'm less interested, let's say, and maybe need to put on my earphones and just grind out the rest of a hike. But yeah, it's just so much to see, so much to be curious about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's great people as well, not there?
Yeah, they're really great people. Yeah.
Now, hiking with somebody, you have to make compromises, obviously.
So
but
true.
They're good compromises, I'm sure. So who decides what to do that day? Oh, obviously not good compromises. Who decides how far you're going to go? Or is there a team effort there?
I think it's a team effort.
I'd say the only time there was maybe a slight conflict about mileage was in the beginning, because I had this idea that, we're ultra runners. We come from this background where we can do big miles, can push hard, do these big things. And Josh was like, we're going to start doing exactly what they say, 8 miles a day, then 10 miles a day, then 12 miles a day, whatever, that builds up.
Josh was right, by the way.
Josh was right. Josh was right. And I, looking back, I look at this and I was like, God, I'm so glad I did that. Because, what are you trying to prove? Now that we're into our through hike, I really see that, no way I wanted to rush this. And what a shame it would have been to have Georgia be gone in a blip anyway.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that time. And we're not injured. Every day isn't a struggle to get out of bed, and we're not having any nagging injuries. So that was the right thing to do. But I think I'm on the, the whole saying where it's keep me wild and I'll keep you safe, or whatever that is. Of that, he's the I'll keep you safe and I'm the I'll keep you wild. So it's I'm the one pushing and he's the one.
I've got to say, you don't look particularly wild.
No.
You're the careful one keeping us safe.
Yeah.
Right. So, what's the favourite spot so far?
It's a tough one. I mean, every state has been so interesting.
Yeah.
I think for us, Pennsylvania was really special.
Was it?
Well, because Her family lives right at the halfway point.
Wrong answer.
So like, the state park.
Hot take.
I really enjoy it. Like, it's special being home and friends
yeah.
and family, and then.
Of course it is. Of course it is.
I teared up crossing the line. I mean, like, just the act of
So
being
did
like
I.
I
For
walked
entirely different reasons.
that climbed down Penmar. But no, that was special. I love the Smokies, the Great Smoky Mountains.
Yeah, so did I this
One
year
of
as
my
well.
favorites.
Yeah.
A lot of people are like, it's funny. Different parts of the trail really speak to people, and sometimes they're like, I hated this, and other people loved it.
Well, I was joking about Pennsylvania, of course, because I joke about it a lot on the podcast generally. But someone said to me, a Pennsylvanian, he said, just accept it. Pennsylvania sucks, but the people are great.
Yeah.
So that kind of worked
cute.
out.
Yeah, I like that.
But we had that terrible heat there as well.
That was tough.
How did you manage that? What did you do?
We got off trail.
Did you?
Yeah, I was lucky. I had an uncle in the area, about an hour away, and he's like, well, why don't you just come to my house and lie in my pool? And I said, well, that sounds nice. So we did that for a day, and then
I bet you missed the trail though, didn't you?
We did. Anytime we're off the trail, I'm usually ready to get back on. Yeah. It's kind of like having your own space, right? Like you're like,
yes, totally is. Yeah, totally
yeah.
great. And this, we're in New York now, obviously, and we've got the wildfires, and it's been really hazy in the woods, isn't it? Kind of orangey and yellowy in the woods.
Yeah.
Yesterday we took a photo of the sun and it almost looked like an eclipse.
Wow.
Like where you can see the sun kind of, you can almost look at it.
Yeah.
And it's going to ramp up with the heat today as well, apparently later on.
Oh, is it?
And so that's not so good either. But look, thanks for stopping to chat, and enjoy the rest of your hike.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers. Day 96, which was Friday, the Greymore Spiritual Life Centre, mile 1416, to the Raymond Torrey Memorial Shelter, mile 1430, a 14-mile day. Yesterday evening, as I was setting up my tent, a young man named Jack turned up next. Nice lad. He'd started mid-April and was going really well. And unfortunately for him, he was going so well that he probably wasn't hanging around long enough for anybody to give him a trail name. So I said, let's do an interview and put it on the podcast and see if my listeners can give you a trail name. He agreed. So I'll play it after this and try to think of a trail name for him. I said I'd let him know. I'll text him if any of you come up with a good one. I'm on this 3-day, quite short stretch. This is going to be my longest day, a tricky 14-miler. I was also going to end near a beach, and I was determined to have a swim. I came to here before, and I really enjoyed it. I'm not sure if it's 2014 or 2019, actually. I'm terrible at mixing those up. But there's something about being at a beach and being able to go in the water and wash yourself off from the day. It's just glorious. And also, I knew they had burgers there, and I'd be able to have a burger at the end of the day. So happy days as far as I'm concerned. I was definitely up for that. There was also, though, a new shelter that had been built since I was last there. So I think it was built in 2021. So I wanted to stay there. To be honest, even though I went to the beach last time, I don't remember where I camped. I'm going to have to check back and see where I camped. But I don't remember it last time, but there was a shelter there, so I thought I'd go for that. The air seemed a lot clearer of smoke on that morning, yet the heat remained, so it was a sweaty day once more. While there were a few climbs, there was nothing too taxing, and I spent my day strolling when I could, and huffing and puffing when I had to. Normal AT stuff. Then, just a little bit before the blue blaze to the beach and the shelter, I came to the telephone of the wind. And I think it's quite touching. There's a sign, and next to it is a telephone hanging on the sign. And I took a picture, so I'll tell you what it says. It says, there's a poem. Though I've lost you, I can hear your voice in the silent echoes of your absence. You speak to me through rustling leaves, whistling wind, and bowing branches. Though I've lost you, I feel you here in this shrine of trees in nature's sanctuary. It was so touching. And, in the last couple of years, I've lost my son, Rob, and my former wife, Diane, both of which were tough losses, obviously. And the idea is you pick up the phone and you speak to those people. And it was very touching to me. And I was touched that somebody would put it there. And I had that experience standing there by myself, thinking about two people who meant a lot to me in my life. And so, It's if you've got somebody you've lost and you want to just have a little chat with them, try that out. Anyway, then the blue blaze took me down towards the lake and the trail that skirted it. I came out onto the beach, like scruff. Everybody else was in their swimming trunks. There was me in my sweaty clothes. And I saw that the trail took me left towards the shelter, which was about 0.3 miles up the road and away from the beach. I got to the shelter and there was no one there. I set my tent up on a nice flat spot and set out back to the beach complex where I hoped to get a hot dog or a burger. Sadly, hot food was no longer available after 4 p.m. I got there about 4:05 p.m. Messing about and putting my tent up at the shelter cost me a burger. I will not do that again. So it was still open, the place, but they weren't serving hot food anymore. So I bought a Powerade and some Snickers, filled up my water bottles and wandered down to the beach. Down there, I ran into Bobo and Timberdoodle, who spoke to the day before, who had just had their swim and had a burger, just to rub it into me. Anyway, I stripped down to my swimming shorts and T-shirt, taking off my T-shirt and revealing my absolutely wasted frame. It's kind of embarrassing. But once I was in the water, it was glorious. I think I must have lost now 50 pounds. Maybe it's 45 because it was 45 about a week or so ago. But I've been sweating so much recently, I may have lost more. And I know I look skinny. Even though I'm 210 pounds, I look really, really skinny now. And I've got lots of insect bites all over me. Oh man, it's horrible. Anyway, I went in the water, and once I was in there, it was great. It was glorious. And I hung around out there for 10 minutes or so and came out and then dried off. There wasn't much else for me at the beach that day, so I went back to the shelter, made myself some ramen. Oh, something I haven't mentioned, my AirPods have given up the ghost, having gotten damp one time too many, so I ordered a pair of shocks to replace them. I've been using the AirPods and listening to commentaries on the World Cup game and the British Open golf this week, so I've been using my AirPods and headphones much more than I did in my previous hikes. I like it, to be honest with you. I said I should never do it. And I know that Dave Santee last year had these shocks. So I've ordered these shocks to try them out. And they're going to be there soon because I sent them to Dr. Lynn. She lives nearby and also I ordered them and got them to be sent to Dr. Lynn. And I ordered also a new pair of boots from Obo's that have also now arrived. My shoes have given up the ghost already. And they were Obo's shoes. And surprisingly, they're falling apart. And I haven't had them for that long, probably for about, I don't know what I've done since I've been back, probably about 400 miles. Maybe that's not too bad. But yeah, so I'm getting new boots and a pair of shocks from Dr. Lynn when I see her. Then, this is stupid of me. When I've been down there, I've been down at the shop complex. I've been filling my water bottles and taking my money out taking my cards out to get, I go and get an ice cream and Snickers and stuff like that. Anyway, Bobo and Timberdoodle, who I knew weren't staying at the shelter, came past and when it came out of the way to give me my wallet, I'd left it back on the table outside the shop and they'd seen it sitting there and they realised it was mine. I was so lucky. But yeah, stupid really. Because when you're on a hike, you tend to look after everything and everything is the place it should be. I just simply had not put it back where it should have been. Anyway, I got into my tent because of the mozzies.
So we're sitting, actually, just the two of us in this the Graymore Spiritual Life Centre ball fields, and it's just me and Jack. Hey Jack, thanks for talking to us.
How you doing?
Now, the reason you're Jack is you haven't got a name yet. So I think we need to try to work out a name for you. Have you done any dumb things on this trail so far?
Nothing super dumb. On the way to Neal's Gap, the first resupply, about halfway there, I realized I didn't have a a cord to connect my portable charger to my phone.
Excellent effort.
And I didn't really need it, but that was pretty dumb. Like if I'd needed it, that would have been like, wow, that was really stupid. But it didn't end up being a big deal or anything. So that could have probably been a trail name or something if it had ended up a little worse.
It seems to me that your biggest problem is that you're going quite fast. So you're not actually hanging around a lot of the same people all the time, are you? So tell us when you started.
I started April 14th.
Right.
You're totally right, though. I haven't really hung around most of the same people. I actually ran into a dude the other day that we started at Amicalola Falls at the same hour. We were in the same orientation room, so that was cool to see him again. We hung out in the last town over in Greenwood Lake, so that was pretty cool.
All right. So you're young. You're in your 20s.
Yep, 23.
Okay. And just out of college?
Yep, I graduated from St. Lawrence University last year.
So this is really your job before work?
Yeah.
Or did you have a job?
No, I worked for the Appalachian Mountain Club for 3 summers and a fall.
Oh, tell me about that.
So like the first year I started in the kitchen there, and that was just like to become a part of the community or whatever. I was like, this job doesn't sound super appealing, whatever, but it's in a really cool place, and I could open up the door for future stuff. And the last 3 seasons I worked in the AMC storehouse, which was like, if you're familiar with the way like the hut system works up there, I basically did like the supply and the logistics for that and all that stuff.
You didn't work in the huts at all?
No, like those are all my really close friends and everything, but nice. I didn't actually like work in the huts though. That's just how I like explain it to people, because nobody really is familiar with the job that I worked.
Yeah. So what's your degree in?
Environmental studies.
Right. Oh, nice. So what you can do with that, do you think?
I definitely want to go back to more school. This was like, I really wanted to get on the Appalachian Trail before going back for like a master's degree or anything. So yeah, that's definitely my next step, is going back to more schooling and all that.
When do you guys leave school then? You guys who keep going back to school to learn jobs.
It's like a lifetime thing, I swear. Like my older brother went to school for probably like 25 years he was in school for, and it really is wild. Like you can go to as much school as you want.
So why the AT? Is this your first long distance trail?
Yeah, this is my first long distance trail. I'd never backpacked actually before I came out here. Right. No, I got really into hiking in 2023, and it kind of just took off from there. Like I really like to do things that physically and mentally challenge myself, so this kind of seemed like the obvious next step. I like to do things that are like, I like to really indulge in the things that I enjoy. Like I have trouble taking things like easily or casually.
Nice.
So I obviously got super into it right away.
You certainly did. Because you done a 29-mile day, you say?
Yeah, that was my longest day. I did like maybe a day or two before the Triple Crown. Right. It started at a little bit before Bailey's Gap Shelter, and that was closed because of bear activity or something like that. So I couldn't stay there. So it ended up being a much longer day than I expected, because my end point was further away than I expected, and my start point was also further away than I expected.
So you say you like challenging yourself. Has this been a challenge physically for you or mentally?
Mentally, absolutely. Like it's been more mentally challenging than I expected, but less physically challenging than I expected. Like everything I did to physically prepare for this, it really helped me.
What'd you do? Did you go to the gym or what?
Yeah, mostly like in the winter, it was mostly stuff in the gym and like cardio stuff on like on an assault bike, and like, cause I couldn't really hike over the winter, my knee was all messed up. So I was just like doing other stuff to like strengthen my body and build mobility and all that stuff. And I've done a ton of like hiking and trail running stuff over the years. So I kind of feel like I had the legs built in a little bit, but it really is just like the mental part of it. Sometimes it's
tell us about that. Tell us, people always say it's the mental part, but it's difficult to sometimes define it. You know, do you have good days and bad days, or would you sometimes think, well, this sucks. Why am I doing that?
Absolutely. And it feels like I've been out here for almost exactly 3 months, and it feels like so much longer than the 3 months. And it's like there's so many good moments that I can think of, like, and any of the coolest places I went to. Like, I feel like Blood Mountain was really cool. The Roan Highlands are really cool. Yes, the Grayson Highlands are really cool. All of the Shenandoahs were lovely. Like there's so many high points for sure, but I feel like weather is the thing that commonly really brings me down. And like there's definitely some stretches of unfortunate weather, but nothing like I feel like a lot of other years you have worse weather than we've had out here. But that week after trail days where it like rained for a week, that was really hard on me. Like I just couldn't find it in me to get moving as far as I wanted to in all the days. But the second the weather was nice again, that was when I did my 29-mile day. It was just like, oh my God, I feel so good.
And you've done a big day today, haven't you?
Yeah, I did 27 miles today just because I really wanted to get to that deli down there. And
I did 13. It's like me walking from where I was to here and then back again.
Fair enough. No, I mean, that was the plan when I woke up. So it worked.
So have you got a date in mind when you're going to finish?
I think it's going to be like either the week before or the week after September 1st. I'm not quite sure. Like I haven't really done the math in my head, but that seems about right to me. We have like 790 miles left or something along those lines. So I that's kind of what I've been thinking out in my head. That's when I want to finish. I don't actually know how realistic that is, I guess.
And having been out here now, and it does become your job, it becomes your life anyway, certainly. Do you think you'll do other long distance trails, or do you think you're one and done?
I definitely don't, at least not immediately. I wouldn't do any other Triple Crown trails or anything like that, but I definitely have interest in like the long trail or like shorter long distance trails for sure. 300 miles and under in the near future, I could totally see myself doing, but I think it'll be a little bit before I attempt any of the other Triple Crown trails.
Well, look, thanks for talking to us, and listeners, I'd like you to think of a trail name for Jack, and if you've got a good one, I'll text him, because he'll be miles ahead of me then straight away, obviously, and so we'll see if we can get a trail name for him, okay? Anyway, thanks, Jack.
Thanks, good talking to you.
Cheers.
Day 97, which was Saturday, Raymond Touring Memorial Shelter, mile 1430, to New York 52, mile 1440.3, a 10.3 mile day. I woke up at the shelter and had been joined by 3 others who were still asleep. Somebody was in like a body bag. God knows what it's like. He was kind of cowboy camping, I think, and it was pretty damp that morning, so God knows how he'd done. This was a short day that hopefully I was going to miss the rain, which was promised for early afternoon. So I got going around 6:30 in the morning in an effort to get to New York 52 and finally to the Airbnb I'd booked for that night and my 0 day the next day. So I was staying for 2 nights in the Airbnb, Saturday night and Sunday night. I was at the top of Shenandoah Mountain before 8 o'clock and came across the American flag painted there in honour of those who died at 9/11. There's a bench there, so I sat to reflect. You know, this is a uniquely American disaster which happened, and we all experienced it, even though I wasn't in America at the time and I was in England, but I travelled a lot to America. And I had 5 appointments in the World Trade Center a week after the planes hit it. And so I was fine. I still obviously was in the UK when it happened. And I've always felt the impact of 9/11, even though I'm not an American, or I'm actually an American citizen now, but even though I was in the UK, that I knew a lot of people in there. Not one of the people I knew died, and I knew I had those appointments, so it's always meant a lot to me. And that flag, I don't know, it just seemed right for it to be there. There have been since a few comments on Facebook when I posted these pictures about leaving no trace and all that sort of stuff, which I totally agree with. But there is something about where it is and what it is and how it made me feel and how I'm sure it makes other people feel that I think makes it quite appropriate. Each to their own, of course, but I'm personally happy that it's there. There seemed to be a lot less rocks early on this day, with the paths quite accessible, though the day would give me my worst fall yet. I'll tell you about that in a moment. I passed the RPH shelter, which is Ralph's Peak Hikers Cabin, something like that. And I stayed there in last time, and there's a nice little grassy area out there, and it's an enclosed cabin, and I always like those. And I would spend my time in and around there. Must have been 15 people there that night. And I got good memories of that shelter. The relative ease of the path soon changed, and I was back battling rocks and it was threatening to rain for some while. But fall number 9 happened when I was about 2 miles, maybe 3 miles from my destination. I was passing a tree which had an extremely thick root on the path, and my foot just got stuck. Unfortunately, my top half was still moving forward, propelled by my pack. I face planted. Well, I nearly face planted. I went down. I didn't actually hit my face on the ground, but I did use my forearm to protect me from doing so. This immediately gave me a sharp pain in my right arm. When I pulled up my sleeve, it looked like I had a serious gash with blood flowing quite freely. My immediate thought was that I needed a stitch or two, but I knew that I had to do something about it then and there, and I pulled my first aid kit out of my bag to apply a pad and some tape. It was a bit of a messy job, but fortunately my sleeves are quite tight. And I covered up with the tape and pulled my sleeve back over it, and I just watched my sleeve get redder and redder with the blood. It wasn't pretty, I tell you. But it seemed to slow down the flow of the blood, and eventually it stopped. As I reached the road and my destination, there was a deli about 0.3 of a mile to the right, so I headed that way just as the rain started coming. I intended to get there, get myself some food, and then order an Uber to get me to my Airbnb. I made it to the deli and just got out of the rain, and I sat like a mess in the corner. I'd actually put on my rain jacket as much as anything to stop people seeing the blood on my arm. So I'm sitting there too hot in my rain jacket, which I didn't need, which is now, by the way, about 5 sizes too big for me. I must have looked awful there. And they made me one of the best spaghetti carbonaras I've ever had. It was absolutely glorious. So I was feeling pretty sorry for myself at this stage, but I ordered an Uber and I made my way to Stormville, where the Airbnb was, just 2.5 miles away, I think. My hostess happened to be a Russian nurse in a previous life, and she treated the wound sufficiently for me to be able to take a shower and cleaned it up again afterwards, telling me that it didn't need a stitch. She also covered it up so that I wouldn't spill a lot of blood on her sheets. I'm sure that's why she covered it up. There's not a lot going on in downtown Stormville, let me tell you. Linda, the Russian nurse, told me that there was a really good pizza shop just under a half a mile on a flat road away. So I took the walk, only to find that they were closed for vacation between the 12th and 19th of July, which I was not happy to hear. So there was actually a Shell station opposite. That was my only source of food that night. So I grabbed a ramen and took it back to the Airbnb. And by the way, it tasted great with my ramen toppings, so all was well. So that cut I got is looking pretty nasty right now. But in keeping with the serendipity of the trail, I am lucky enough that my friend Dr. Lynn is going to slap pat me for 3 days starting on Monday. And I'll be staying at her home with her husband, Bob. We're better to be with a dodgy arm than with a doctor. Quite apart from seeing my friend, I couldn't have asked for anywhere better to stay. For those of you who don't know, that is what trail magic really is. I'll see you next time.